Hey guys, it's been so long since I made a video. I think it's been around 6-7 months, and I remember the last time I made a video, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be consistent this time, and then I just disappeared for 6 or 7 months. But I would argue that it's well within reason. I moved to Italy and studying in an amazing university in a very good program, and I'm going to summer school. So a lot of things in my life has changed, and I have a feeling that it's about to change even more and even for the better, and I would love if you guys come with me on this journey. So, and I thought the best way to take you guys with me is to make videos or things that I'm excited about and things that I want to learn more. So let's get into the topic. The thing today I'm going to talk about is called cycle syncing, and it's been a very hot topic in wellness podcast and in general within wellness industry. And if you don't know what cycle syncing means, it's basically the idea that you change your diet, exercise, and even lifestyle habits depending upon your menstrual cycle, or it says so on the helpline. And in especially in wellness podcast, many people have been recommending doing that cycle syncing, and we are going to talk about the nuances of cycle syncing, and does it even actually have any scientific research behind it, and what are the things we can implement to be a little bit more connected to our cycle. Okay. Before we actually talk about the nuances of menstrual cycle, we need to talk about the what does cycle syncing recommend exactly. So let's start with the menstruation phase. In the menstruation phase, what happens is they usually recommend eating very high rich iron food, and even vitamin C is recommended because apparently it helps with iron absorption, and very light exercises such as yoga or even light walk, or sometimes, as we all know, not even exercising is usually recommended during menstruation phase. Because apparently in menstruation phase, estrogen and progesterone, the two main hormones within our bodies, especially female bodies, are at an all-time low. So, and that's the reason why we kind of crave more high caloric dense food, and that's why people usually recommend eating more iron to supplement the loss of blood loss. In the luteal phase, estrogen kind of peaks, and this is when they recommend a little bit more strenuous exercises such as jogging, high pace walking, and all that stuff, and a little bit more lean protein and carbohydrates, because apparently it's a good time to start making muscles. During the ovulation phase, there's similar food type like carbohydrates and good lean protein and all that, and this is the time where they recommend going all in your exercise, such as doing HIIT exercises, doing very weightlifting, resistance training, and all that good stuff. And then the last phase is the follicular phase, where the progesterone kind of peaks, and we go back into that routine of it's just before the menstrual phase. So some people the energy is a little bit more lower, so they also recommend exercises which kind of match that energy, and food with magnesium is also kind of recommended during the follicular phase. So this is what I'm just giving a very brief about what cycle syncing actually is. Many people also recommend lifestyle habit changes, such as doing things that are more creative during the ovulation phase, but doing a little bit more file keeping, and a little bit more office clerical kind of work, and routine kind of work during your other phases, because some people suggest that during ovulation phases, since we have such high energy, it might aid in our creative pursuits also. This is at least what the wellness industry suggests, and I do understand where the appeal comes from. Logical, it is logical, it does make sense, and I know many people personally that who has done cycle syncing, and it has really helped them. But when we look at the scientific literature aspects of it, surprisingly there isn't much literature on this particular topic. There were only very few studies that I could actually find that did talk about this. There were studies on menstrual cycle during various different other pursuits, such as dating history and even cycle syncing between two women, but there isn't much scientific literature on the topic of cycle syncing with your diets and exercises and all that. So I'll talk about the studies now. In 1995, Reis and his colleagues did a study where they basically found that menstrual phase-based training was much better at training adaptations when compared to regular training. In 1996, a systematic review was also done on the same topic, and they also found that follicular phase-based training was much better at training adaptations than regular training. But this was the only good studies which really focused or emphasized on cycle syncing and menstrual phases and how it can adapt our diet and nutrition and exercise and all that. But considering all this, there isn't much studies on these particular topic, which is very surprising. But I still believe that there will be way more studies which I haven't found that did look at nutrition and the its effects on the faces and exercise, its effects on the faces. But I do want to talk about one more thing, which is lifestyle habits on menstrual phases. So there is generally this idea that, as I mentioned before, you can be more creative during ovulation phase and you should be taking it super slow during the menstrual phase. But once we are giving this blanket kind of statements, we are forgetting about the nuances of cycle syncing. The idea behind this is that everybody who's in ovulation phase can follow this strict regimen and you will get the results, which is not really the truth. I'll just give you one study to show you what I'm talking about. So in this image, you can see that there is PMS pattern 1, PMS pattern 2, mid-cycle pattern, and no cyclic changes. As you can see in the image, in PMS 1 and PMS 2, it's related to depression and anxiety. This was a study done by Kiesner to see whether there is any difference in the pattern during menstrual phase. So in PMS pattern 1 and PMS pattern 2, you can see that there is an increase during your menstrual phase in your depression and anxiety symptoms, and which then just goes back lower. But in the mid-cyclic pattern, you can see it's the opposite, where there is a decrease of premenstrual symptoms such as depression and anxiety, but there is an increase during your other phases. So what this demonstrates is that there is no set pattern for individuals. There is no set pattern of, oh okay, I will feel more anxious or depressed during my menstrual phase, so I shouldn't do anything much during that phase. Or when I'm during my ovulation phase, it might be I might be more creative, because there is no set pattern for it. Every woman has very different patterns of menstrual cycle, or at least how they feel during their menstrual cycle is very, very different for each individual woman. So this is not to say that do not cycle sync, but rather this is actually an invitation to cycle sync, but according to your needs, being honoring your body and trying to figure out what do you feel during each period or each phase on your menstrual cycle. Usually we are given that idea that during menstrual cycle, during your menstruation phase is the phase where you feel very sad. But for me, I think it's during my luteal phase where I feel a bit more sad and a little bit more stressed, and I wouldn't feel that good. But during my menstruation phase, I am more creative and I have more energy compared to my other phase. So it's totally different for different women. So this is rather an invitation to actually find out what exactly works for you and trying to see how you feel during each cycle. And what I would recommend is to actually, for a month, really observe yourself. How do you feel? If you have a phone, I mean obviously you have a phone. If you have a phone, journal it out, or if you have that mood calendars where you can write what you feel during each day, write that out and see if there is a pattern there, because it will actually really help you. It will actually help you once you get into that stage in life where you can kind of see what to organize when you have that privilege to do so. It will be really helpful for you. So yeah, next time when you're hearing about cycle syncing, do listen to the advice, but with a grain of salt, and try to personalize it according to you. That's it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.